Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. Welcome to the second evening of Hannah's Book-ukkah Cozy Edition. As I mentioned in the announcement video, I was inspired to use this theme by the wonderful hosts of the 12 Days of Christmas and Coziness, Gina and Elli. Links down below. For this video, I want to talk about a winter-themed book by the author Maeve Binchy. I first discovered Maeve Binchy when her novel Circle of Friends was made into a movie starring Minnie Driver. Several years later, I tried to find a DVD of the movie, including on Netflix back in the day when one ordered DVDs, but I never had any luck. Of course, I now see that the film is up on YouTube, of course. Anyway, after falling in love with the movie Circle of Friends, I immediately found a mass-market version of the novel, complete with one of those horrible movie tie-in covers. And I loved the book even more than I had loved the film. But despite loving Circle of Friends, I haven't read any more Maeve Binchy. Back then, there was nothing by her in my local library. Now, new library, the shelf is quite full, and I figured this was the season to give her novel, A Week in Winter, a try. I have a feeling this new read will not stick with me in the way Circle of Friends has, but I did find it nicely atmospheric for the season. All I really want now is to sit by the fire with hot scones and a cup of tea somewhere on the coast of Western Ireland. Maeve's story starts with Chickie Star, who, after falling in love with an American visitor in her hometown of Stonybridge, decides to follow her beau to New York against the wishes of her family. Things don't go exactly as Chickie planned, and she winds up unmarried, working in a boarding house for many years. She doesn't want to go home to Ireland and confess her imperfect life in America. In her letters to them, she invents a whole life with the very successful Walter. Eventually, something forces her to give up that lie. But instead of telling the truth, she invents an even more elaborate lie. And her family believes that lie as well. So she comes home to Ireland to visit and decides to stay. After sort of a lucky turn of events, she commits to turn a local place, Stonehouse, into a vacation guest house or holiday hotel. The process of renovating it and starting the business brings a sense of healing to the people who work there, and then it brings healing to the first guests as well as a few other people in the community. After Chickie's story, we get a new separate chapter talking about bad boy Rigger and his background. He eventually comes to help her with the renovations and maintenance, and not surprisingly turns into a good man. In the next chapter, Chickie's niece Orla, who's a whiz at facts and figures, helps her set up the business, but also finds a way to become what she wants to become. And at the end of these character-centered chapters, a structure I know Binchy has used before, these three characters come together in a fairly fundamental way, all working together long-term at Stonehouse. Having 3 long chapters in a row that start with the backstory of a particular character, showing some problem or weakness or sadness, then showing how they come to Stonehouse and why the experience helps them become more fully whole, more or less, works in these first 3 chapters. The same chapter-oriented structure continues through the rest of the book, though, and I didn't find it nearly as successful from this point on. Instead of exploring the backstories of the staff members, we hear about the individual guests who visit Stonehouse during its first week in operation. As I said, I'm less persuaded by this telling of almost completely unconnected, specific character-driven stories. I really liked many of the characters and the way they found comfort and healing from their vacations, and I'll talk about 1 or 2 of the characters in just a minute. But I often felt the reasons they all found themselves at the guest house, the brand new guest house, seemed contrived, just too random and unbelievable. Their backstories were often interesting and well developed, and at least mostly believable. Their needs for vacation were clearly established. But then they stumble across this tiny hotel in a tiny town in the west of Ireland, which suddenly seems like their dream come true, even though it hasn't even opened yet. I kept finding myself rolling my eyes at this particular moment in each character's story when they find Stonehouse. So, we have John, the American movie star, immediately recognized by everyone at Stonehouse, but granted the gift of people acting like he was just another visitor. Dutch businessman Anders, as he tries to figure out what he really wants in life. A woman and her boyfriend's mother, a pair who had no plans to be vacationing together, but wind up together at Stonehouse. A married couple, 2 doctors, who are trying to recover from a traumatic event. The end of each chapter brings the characters together, not in a deep way, just physically together at Stonehouse. I was assuming that there would be some kind of wrap-up section that tied these intertwined stories together, but there really wasn't. Well, except for a supposed psychic who delivers hopeful messages to the other guests about their specific futures. In almost all cases, the characters are hiding things, sometimes outright lying. I talked about Chickie's extreme lies already, but the theme of concealing the truth echoes throughout the book, even in the stories of many of the minor characters. No matter how heavy-handed the theme feels sometimes, Binchy really doesn't seem to try to make sense from it. It really felt to me like she was asking a series of questions about why sometimes those lies or concealments led to difficult situations, yet at other times they gave people a life of opportunities and freedom. But there really isn't enough reflection on the theme for me. Instead, we get what I guess is the hallmark of cozy fiction: comfort. What unites the stories is that while everyone has their struggles, everyone is magically mended by their time at Stonehouse together during their vacation 1 week in winter. Thanks for joining me here today. See you soon for the next installment of Hannah's Book-ukkah.